Today was a rough day, and though I have tried, I can't pinpoint a reason. Maybe it's being 6,247 miles and 13 hours worth of time zones from my wife. Maybe it's because work has invaded the place that's always been a sanctuary from work. Maybe it's the isolation of living alone for over a month in a foreign land during a global pandemic. Or just simply some combination of all those things and more. With so many out-of-the-ordinary factors swirling about us all, these days, it's really hard to tell. Nonetheless, something made today seem like the worst day so far of this global social distancing event. I was on edge, my blood pressure was high, too high, all day. I had a splitting headache, I struggled to concentrate, the most minor work-related issues made my pulse rise. When my workday was finally done, I needed something to bring back my well-being. Fortunately, there's a big hill behind my house. I've heard some people call it a mountain, but should anything you can walk to the top of in a little over half an hour ever really be called a mountain? So I decided to hike up the mountain, hill, though ultimately I do think the imagery of hiking a mountain is far much better, especially given how tiring it was. Plus, being out of breath from walking up a hill is just downright embarrassing. I decided that this hike could not be just a casual stroll. I needed intensity and ascent, something that would reset my pulse by pushing it to its limit, forcing me to breathe, sweat, and make my legs really, really wobbly. So I grabbed my camera. I always grab my camera, slung it over my shoulder, and adamantly made my way to the trail. I paused for a moment to read a little bit about the trail and was quickly reminded that I am a functional illiterate here. That's when I noticed a couple of locals were wondering what I was up to. I invited them to join, but either they didn't speak English or trudging themselves up the trail was not really their thing. So I wished them well and made my way. It started out easy, but I soon found out there were some things that were different, like this, which reminded me that the more I experience the world, the more I realize how much I don't know, and that I am really fortunate to have online translation. More importantly, though, I learned that I am much more out of shape than I should be. It was not long, and I had already accomplished my primary objectives: pulse at its limit, breathing heavy, sweat building, and legs not really wanting to move me uphill anymore. I thought about turning around, mission accomplished, crisis averted. However, I chose otherwise. About 2/3 of the way up, I began to really question a lot of things. Why did I come up this hill? Why did I not put on better shoes? Why didn't I change into more lightweight clothes? Why did I ever agree to move to South Korea? Why this virus? Why now? Who's that little Korean lady that just passed me like I was standing still? Why did I bring this damn camera? It's really fucking heavy. Why? As I continued my way up, inundated with why and who and when, my thoughts eventually transitioned from focusing on how difficult and unsettling everything was to noticing what I was encountering along the way. I noticed that I was recording only the relatively flat, smooth portions of the trail, not the steep, uneven, really challenging portions. Not because I wasn't interested in those. It was more because I had to change my focus temporarily. The portions of the trail that were flat and easy didn't take as much effort, just putting one foot in front of the other. So recording those portions was no big deal. For the steep, rocky portions of the trail, I needed to make sure I didn't lose my footing, and in doing that, I couldn't pay attention to what my video camera was doing. So I chose not to record the really crazy, shaky video, which had no clear purpose other than making anyone watching the video feel ill. Also, on the rocky, steep portions, I realized that I needed to be much more creative in how I made my way uphill. Along the trail, I met a few people. Some were doing better than me, of course, but they also paused for a moment to try and make polite conversation and to point out to me how beautiful the new azalea blooms were. Others were people who had already completed their journey. I hoped it had been good. When I finally reached my destination, not quite the top of the hill, it was more like the bottom of the top, I paused and let my breathing slow down. I looked around, trying to avoid direct eye contact with the little Korean lady who passed me, of course, and I caught a glimpse of a Eurasian nuthatch spying on me. At first, I thought something was wrong with it. Usually, nuthatches are moving, feeding, calling, and doing everything they can to not be skewered by the needly tipped toes of a hawk. They are non-stop, they're quick, and they're jittery. But this one just stayed there, still and silent as could be, in the crook of a branch, for a very, very long time, like it was pausing, taking some time to reset from its crazy, hectic life. So I moved in a little closer, and I was able to get a few pictures before it suddenly flew off. Reset, apparently, ready for whatever the world had in store, back to its everyday life. And right at that moment, I realized all of those whys filling my head earlier, that nuthatch was why. If you start feeling really stressed out by anything these days, isolation, your job, your lack of job, being stuck in your house with your entire family for weeks, that person who has the audacity to buy 2 cans of disinfectant when you decided to only buy 1 to make sure more were available for people who might also need it, not for someone else to buy 2, or that person across the street who just coughed and you're not sure if he covered the cough or if he coughed into his hand, not his sleeve. These things, they are not bad. They're just the steep, uneven trail, and we need to be creative and willing to see the beautiful flowers others point out along the way. So when it all becomes too much, just take a moment, step away, walk vigorously, breathe, be creative, get out. Try to find your nuthatch. Who knows? You might even get a couple of new friends who want to walk with you for a while, but at about 6 feet away.